Tulasiyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Savana Raghunathanam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Savana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Tamsa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripi Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharini, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So yesterday we discussed text 11 and 12. Text number 11 talks about the supreme absolute truth, which is realized in 3 levels from the different perspective and different angles of vision. But most important, we came to know that what is the process of realizing the absolute truth? What is the process of realizing the supreme absolute truth? What Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam says, what is the process of realizing the supreme absolute truth? Boliye, I am asking all of you. Sadhan. Sadhya, the goal is the supreme absolute truth. And sadhan is the process which enables ones to realize the supreme absolute truth. So what is the process which is defined in this section of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? Yes, Ravindra bro.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Priyanka. Boliye.
Prabhuji, the path of Bhakti Yoga, rendering devotional service to the Supreme Lord.
And also, in Bhakti Yoga, what aspect of Bhakti Yoga? How that has to be practiced?
With causeless and ceaseless.
No. That is how Bhakti is to be performed. But what is the process? How the process begins? How one can come to that stage?
By hearing.
So, say it in a proper way. What is required for hearing? First, what is the requisition? What is the prerequisite for hearing? You memorize the verse? Verse number 12. Anyone memorize verse number 12? Yesterday we spent so much time on the verse number 12. Tat shraddhana muneho. First thing is to have shraddha, to have faith. And one has to be situated in jnana vairagya yuktaya. Then pashyanti atmani chatmanam. Now what is the process? The first thing is that he should have faith and he should be equipped or he should be established both in jnana and vairagya. Jnana vairagya yuktaya. Pashyati atmani chatmanam. Then one can have the realization of the self and the super soul both. How? What is the process? bhaktya shrutya grihitya. By the process of hearing. Hearing. Okay. So we go to the next verse. The next verse speaks about the purpose of this division of the society. Yeah. Ataḥ pumbhir dvija-śreṣṭhā varṇāśrama-vibhāgaśaḥ svanuṣṭhitasya dharmasya saṁsiddhir hari-toṣaṇam. So ataḥ means therefore, and pumbhir means for people, pumsa, and pumbhir means for the mass of men, people in general. And whom is he addressing? Sutta Goswami is addressing to the sages, like the verse said before, Muniyam. So here it is, dvija-śreṣṭhā. So, O best among the twice born, all the assembled sages. So he's saying, varṇāśrama-vibhāgaśaḥ, the purpose of the division in the varna and ashrama. What is the division based on varna and ashrama? Very simple, very basic question. Devashish, what is the division based on varna and ashrama?
ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय वैश्य शूद्र मतलब वर्ण 4 वर्ण और आश्रम पे ब्रह्मचारी गृहस्थ बानप्रस्थ.
Very good, perfect answer. So what is the purpose of the division within the varnas and the ashram? So he is addressing all the sages. Ataḥ pumbhir dvija-śreṣṭhā varṇāśrama-vibhāgaśaḥ svanuṣṭhitasya dharmasya, is one who is situated in prescribed duties, one who is performing his prescribed duties. That his dharma, and the purpose of performing the prescribed duty is saṁsiddhir. Siddhi means perfection, and saṁsiddhir means the highest perfection. What is the highest perfection in performing one's prescribed duty? Is hari-toṣaṇam. Is for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So every activity within the varna and the ashrama is meant for the purpose of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Sutta Goswami is addressing to the assembled sages, O best among the twice born. It is therefore concluded. Ataḥ means the conclusion. That the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and order of life is to please the personality of Godhead. So we have seen in this section, second time the varna-ashram system is being mentioned. Previously also it was mentioned. Where it was mentioned? About the varna-ashram system. Which verse that Sutta Goswami mentioned? Here he is saying that the purpose or the perfection of performing all services within the division of the varna and ashrama is to please the personality of Godhead. But he has already mentioned about it. Which verse and what is the verse? Now we are just on the 13th verse. How is it that we are not remembering the last 10, 11 verses? Unmute and speak. They actually want to speak.
No, Prabhuji, no. Just now I have done.
Yeah. You people are not reading. You're not revising. If you don't read and don't revise, nothing will enter into your heart. You cannot approach the Bhagavatam by head. You cannot bluff Bhagavatam or Krishna. If you don't make an effort, nothing will enter the heart. You will remain as blank as ever. No, I will not repeat it. If you don't remember, then what to do? I'll move ahead. Human society all over the world is divided into 4 castes and 4 orders of life. As Devashish Prabhu just shared, the 4 castes are the intelligent caste, that is the Brahmanical caste, the martial caste. It is not marital caste, it is the martial caste. Martial caste means the caste which engages in warfare, that is the Kshatriya. The productive caste, that is the agriculturist, a Krishi, and the labor caste, that is the Shudra. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. These castes are classified in terms of one's work and qualification and not by birth. So the classification is based on one's work and not by birth. Then again, there are 4 orders of life, namely the student life, the householder life, the retired life, and the devotional life. Very beautiful. Prabhupada is not saying brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Prabhupada is giving the deeper meaning. Brahmachari means the student life is learning, is studying. And grihastha is the householder, and vanaprastha means who is retired from all material activities. And finally, sannyasi is one who is 100% engaged in devotional life. In the best interest of human society, there must be such divisions of life. Otherwise, no social institution can grow in a healthy state. And in each and every one of the above mentioned division of life, the aim must be to please the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. This institutional function of human society is known as the system of varṇāśrama dharma. This is very scientific. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita about varṇāśrama? If you don't even remember Bhagavad Gita, then I will stop Bhagavatam now. Yes, Dayashil.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Chaturvarnyam Maya system, Guna Karma Vibhāgaśaḥ.
So this is Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. This system of Varna and Ashrama has been established by no one else than the Supreme Lord Himself. So as so-called reformists or politicians or socialists talk about classless society, it is bogus. It is not possible in the human society. It is only possible to be in subhuman society. Because there is a Supreme Lord who established that if the society has to function towards the aim of perfection, saṁsiddhir, and how the saṁsiddhir will come is by hari-toṣaṇam. So, to come to the stage of saṁsiddhir hari-toṣaṇam, where it begins, varṇāśrama-vibhāgaśaḥ, based on the division which is according to work and qualification. So it is not possible to have a classless society. How? If some person says to have the body of a human life. So can the head and the leg be equal? Is it possible? The function of the head and leg can be the same. The head is compared to the Brahmanas. And the arms are compared to the Kshatriyas. and the abdomen is compared to the Vaishyas, and the legs are compared to the Shudras. So as we have different limbs to perform different functions, without which the body cannot function, similarly, if we have to have a society which is progressing toward saṁsiddhir, it has to have division based on work and qualification. That is what Prabhupada is saying, in the best interest of human society, there must be such divisions of life. Otherwise, no social institution can grow in a healthy state. And in each and every one of the above mentioned division of life, the aim must be to please the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. This institutional function of human society is known as the system of varṇāśrama dharma. Very beautiful. The word is system of varṇāśrama dharma, and Krishna says chaturvarṇam maya srishtam varṇāśrama-vibhāgaśaḥ. Tasya kartaram api mam vidhi kartaram mam api, which is quite natural for the civilized life. Uncivilized animal life, there is no need of division. But for civilized life means for progress towards perfection, for progress towards hari-toṣaṇam, this is very much required. Human platform begins when there is proper varṇāśrama dharma. In the absence of varṇāśrama dharma, it is animal life. The varṇāśrama institution is constructed to enable one to realize the absolute truth. So this is the scientific basis. Why? Because in every division of the life, the objective, the goal is only one. Is saṁsiddhir hari-toṣaṇam. It is not for artificial domination of one division over another. So that was, this varṇāśrama system has been exploited. Was exploited by those who were in the Brahmanical class. But it is not for the purpose of exploitation, but it is for the purpose of advancement of the entire society. When the aim of life, that is realization of the absolute truth, is missed by too much attachment to indriya priti or sense gratification, as already discussed herein before. What is the verse? What to expect from you? Not to, I should not ask, because in any case you will not reply, because you have not studied. Who remembers this verse? Indriya priti. None of you are studying. As already discussed before, the institution of the varṇāśrama is utilized by selfish men to pose an artificial predominance over the weaker section. In the Kali Yuga, or in the age of quarrel, this artificial predominance is already current. But the saner section of the people know it well, that the division of caste and orders of life are meant for smooth social intercourse and high thinking self-realization, and not for any purposes, not for any other purposes. So this division of order in the society is meant for everyone to work in cooperation for the purpose of satisfying the Supreme Lord. Here in the statement of the Bhagavatam is that the highest aim of life, or the highest perfection of the institution of the varṇāśrama dharma, is to cooperate jointly for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.13. Who can recite the 4.13 verse completely? Very famous verse. We have studied the 4th chapter so many times. Bolo Pranam, what is the verse? 4:13.
चतुर्वर्ण मया सृष्टम गुण कर्म विभागस्य
What is the
तस्
second line?
तस्य कर्तारहमपि अद्वयम्
No, it is not Advaya. Tasya kartaram api ma.
तस्य actually second line I don't remember.
Most of the devotees, they only have half-hand logic. Earth Kukut Nyay. They know only the first line. Second line, the crux of it is not known. Tasya kartaram api mam. Vidhi akartaram avyayam. Okay. You move to the next verse. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is verse number 14. Very beautiful verse. Tasmād ekena manasā bhagavān sātvatāṁ patiḥ śrotavyaḥ kīrtitavyaś dhyeyaḥ pūjyaś nityadā. So tasmād, the conclusion or the crux is ekena manasā, by single pointed focus or attention of the mind. What one has to do? Bhagavān sātvatāṁ patiḥ. The personality of Godhead, the supreme absolute truth, who is satvata, who is the satvata is the devotees, and Bhagwan is sattvatam patiḥ. Pati also means one who is the protector. So the Supreme Lord is the protector of his devotees. And how to realize the Supreme Lord? Śrotavyaḥ, by the process of hearing. Kīrtitavyaś. Kīrtitavyaś means by glorification. And dhyeyaḥ. Dhyeyaḥ means to remember. Dhyan. From dhyana it comes dhyeyaḥ. Pūjyaś. Pūjyaś means to worship. And how? Nityadā. Constantly. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So this is the conclusion of the process of realizing the Supreme Absolute Truth in his highest feature. Which feature? Bhagavān. It is not saying Brahma or Paramatma. Already defined in 3 levels. Vadanti tat tat vidas tattvam yad jnanam avyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdate. So how to have that highest level of realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal form is śrotavyaḥ. 4 things. Śrotavyaḥ, kīrtitavyaśya, dhyeyaḥ pūjyaśya nityadā. So one has to do these 4 things constantly. So just hearing is not sufficient. After hearing, after assimilation, one has to share. One has to repeat. That is kirtan. Kīrtitavyaś. And even shravanam and kirtanam is not sufficient. What one has to do is dhyeyaḥ, is to remember, is to constantly contemplate or meditate. And pūjyaśya nityadā. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any of the above mentioned caste and orders of life, the 4 processes. So any, Krishna has already declared that in the Bhagavad Gita. that one may be in any stage, but one can achieve the highest perfection. 9th chapter Krishna speaks that verse, that one may even be in the lower strata of the divisions of social order. But still, the access and the opportunity is there to reach to the highest perfection. Which verse is there? It is from the 9th chapter. Yes, boliye, Pradeep Prabhu.
मामहि पार्थ व्यापश्रिताय ये पिसूय पापयोनिः प्रियो वैश्यस्तदा शूद्रास्ते यान्ति परम गतिम्.
Very good, perfect. Mam hi partha vyapashritya. That by depending upon me fully, mam hi partha, not just ashritya, vyapashritya. Yes, yo papyoniyo. Even those who are in the, what to speak of, lower rung of life, or lower divisions of life, even if they are in the abominable state, papsyoni, in the sinful state. Mami partha vyapashritta ye apisyo papyonyo striyo vaishyo tatha shudra. Tepi yanti, they also can achieve. What is the goal or the destination? Paramgati. They can attain me. They can attain the supreme transcendental abode. How? By this engaging in these 4 activities. Śrotavyaḥ, kīrtitavyaśya, dhyeyaḥ, pūjyaś, nityadā. Very beautiful verse. Immediately it can be memorized. Tasmād ekena manasā bhagavān sātvatāṁ patiḥ śrotavyaḥ, kīrtitavyaś, dhyeyaḥ, pūjyaś, nityadā. Tomorrow's session I will ask you to recite these verses. We will be having a overview because this section will end here today. But tomorrow we will see the next section. So before we go to the next section, I will take a review of so far what we have done. In Bhakti Vaibhav, we have test, written test. There are 3 levels of test. One is the shloka recitation. Second is the CBA, closed book, based on purports. There are questions which are based on purports. How much in depth you have studied the purports. And third is that you have to write an essay on the thematic presentation which is coming from the Bhagavatam. Like in this section, what is the thematic presentation? Glorification of the process of bhakti is there. And in bhakti also, how bhakti has to be performed, the conclusion is coming by these 4 activities. Śrotavyaḥ, kīrtitavyaśya, dhyeyaḥ, pūjyaś, nityadā. So, these 4 processes are open and accessible to anyone and everyone. So Prabhupada is saying here, in any of the above mentioned caste and order of life, the 4 processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering and worshipping, are general occupations. Without these principles of life, no one can exist. Prabhupada is saying, without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagement in these 4 different principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social strata becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time, if he is simply glorified truly or falsely. In the daily newspaper, sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspapers' propaganda. And by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. In recent time, there is one very live example of what Srila Prabhupada is discussing. One politician who has come to very much limelight just within a week's time. Hardly anyone knew. But he has become the talk of the entire country. Most of you don't follow news or newspaper, but just very recently. Why? Because he has been glorifying. And Prabhupada is saying either truly or falsely. Now one more yogi has come up. Yogi number 2. From where? From Rajasthan. And he is being, projected as the next Chief Minister of Rajasthan. Yogi part 2. Balaknath Yogi. I think his name is Balaknath. Manasā, what is it? Balaknath?
I think I don't know.
Yeah,
Something
Balaknath Yogi. I also never knew who is this Balaknath Yogi. And the party is trying to project him as the candidate for the chief ministership. So why? So much of propaganda and glorification is there in the media. So unknown person, hardly anyone in the country knew who is this Balaknath. And he's become a very, very prominent person from all this so-called electioneering. So what Prabhupada is trying to say is that whoever is glorified, whether he is a genuine person or a bogus person, Prabhupada is saying, if he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspaper, sometimes political leaders of a political party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda. And by such method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good, either for the particular man or for the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. We have broadly discussed this fact in our comment in the Janmadiyas shloka, in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being. And that will bring happiness. There is one more verse. I'll complete this verse. And from tomorrow there will be another section. It will talk about the progress on the path. How to see who is progressing and where he stands. Yad anudhyasina yukta karma granthi nibandhanam chindanti ko vidastasya ko na kuriyat katharatim. Srila Sudha Goswami is saying that with the sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knot of reactionary work, karma granthi nibandhanam. How? Chindanti. They cut it. How? By yad anudhyasina yuktaha. Anudhya means to remember, and asina means the sword, to cut. So if we remember the Supreme Lord, if there is contemplation and if there is remembrance of the Supreme Lord, what one does, what cuts the binding knot of reactionary work, of karma granthi nibandhan. It's continuation of the previous verse. Is dhyaya. by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? This question being asked. That with sword in hand, intelligent man cuts through the binding knot of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to this message? Srila Sutta Goswami is asking this question. The contact of the spiritual spark with material element creates a knot, which must be cut if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of the fruitive work. We know that in this human form of life, the spirit soul is embodied, and the spirit soul, when it comes in contact with the three modes and with the influence of time, whatever action he performs, he gets a counteraction or a reaction to it, and which binds him perpetually into material existence and from transmigration from one body to another body. So here it is being said that if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of fruitive work, liberation means freedom from the cycle of reactionary work. This liberation automatically follows for one who constantly remembers the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead. Very important. By meditating or by contemplating or by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one gets freed from the reaction of his actions. This is because all the activities of the Supreme Lord, his Leela, are transcendental to the modes of the material energy. They are all attractive spiritual activities, and therefore constant association with the spiritual activities of Supreme Lord gradually spiritualizes the conditioned soul and ultimately severs the knot of material bondage. Liberation from material bondage is therefore a byproduct of devotional service. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation. Such knowledge must be overcoated with devotional service. Very beautiful word. Prabhupada says, such knowledge must be overcoated. I have heard sugar coated. But here Prabhupada is saying, using the word overcoated. Such knowledge must be overcoated with devotional service, so that ultimately the devotional service alone predominates. Then liberation is made possible. Even the reactionary work of the fruitive workers can lead one to liberation when it is overcoated with devotional service. So the karmi or the karma kanda, when they engage in bhakti marg, they engage in devotional service, they can be uplifted. They can be released from this binding knot. Karma overcoated with devotional service is called karma yoga. What does yoga means? Yoga means service performed for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, empirical knowledge overcoated with devotional service is called jnana yoga. But pure bhakti yoga is independent of such karma and jnana, because it alone can not only endow one with the liberation from conditioned life, but also award one the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So many times we have discussed that karma and jnana are both sapeksha. And what is bhakti? Karma and jnana are sapeksha. What is bhakti?
Nirpeksha.
No, it is nirpeksha. What it means, sapeksha and nirpeksha?
Sapeksha is with attachment, and nirpeksha is without attachment.
It is dependence. So, jnana and karma are dependent on bhakti to award liberation. It is sapeksha. Alone it cannot. By jnana and karma, one cannot achieve liberation. But when one performs devotion, that is why Prabhupada is using this very, very inspirational phrase that karma overcoated. Here it is. Karma overcoated with devotional service is called karma yoga. Similarly, empirical knowledge, which is jnana, overcoated with devotional service is jnana yoga. But pure bhakti yoga is independent of such karma and jnana, because it alone can not only endow one with liberation from the conditioned life, but also award one the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But bhakti is not dependent. Bhakti is nirpeksh on karma and jnana. So karma and jnana both are dependent on bhakti. So the karmis, if they perform bhakti, they can come to the platform of liberation. And what is liberation here? What is liberation defined here? What does actually liberation mean? What is liberation? Mukti. Bhagavatam defines mukti very well. Prabhupada discusses it many times. And according to the purport of this verse, what is mukti? Liberation.
Even in the second sentence, freedom from cycle of birth and death. Or
That is
reaction.
gone. No, that is gone. That is the secondary meaning. The primary meaning is mentioned. Yes, there shall Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Freedom from the reaction, Prabhuji. Reaction.
That is again gone. What is the primary? Yes, Pranav?
Get out from material bondage.
Again, you are all speaking the secondary aspect. What is the primary aspect of? It is clearly mentioned. Boliye Manini Mataji.
Prabhuji, is it get the opportunity to perform loving devotional services to the Lord?
This is liberation. Mukti hitva annata rupan swarupena vivasthiti. Is to bring one to the platform of performing devotional service. That is mukti. That is liberation. When one comes to the platform of performing devotional service, reactions, everything is already removed. The cycle of birth and death is already terminated. That is the byproduct. Therefore, Prabhupada says, so pure bhakti yoga is independent of such karma and jnana, because it alone can not only endow one with liberation from conditioned life, but also award one to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, any sensible man who is above the average man, see Prabhupada's word, sensible man who is above the average man, with a poor fund of knowledge, must constantly remember the personality of Godhead by hearing about him, by glorifying him, by remembering him, and by worshipping him. Śrotavyaḥ, kīrtitavyaśya, dhyeyaḥ, pūjyasya, nityadā, without cessation. That is the perfect way of devotional service. The Goswamis of Vrindavan, who are authorized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach the bhakti cult, rigidly followed this rule and made immense literatures of transcendental science for our benefit. They have chalked out ways for all classes of men of the different caste and order of life in pursuance of the teachings of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and similar other authoritative scriptures. Hare Krishna. So we have completed this section of how one can gain bhakti by performing one's prescribed duty according to the system of varna and ashrama. And what is the purpose of this division is that everyone attains perfection. And what is the process of attaining perfection is this four principles. In non-different words, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhav mad bhakto madhyadi mam namaskuru. Hare Krishna. Any discussion or question or clarification or contribution? But I don't see from today's response that anyone has studied. If you don't study, you will not gain. You have to revise. No questions? No discussion. Yes, Manoram Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the four principles today that we discussed, Prabhuji, were about glorifying, remembering, worshipping Supreme Lord.
First, most importantly, we were forgetting.
Hearing.
Hearing.
Yes.
Śrotavyaḥ. Unless there is hearing, how can there be kīrtitavyaś? If the heart is not saturated with glories, how can it glorify? But an empty heart, an empty husk, what can it prepare? Yes, the four principles.
Yes, Prabhuji. So in yesterday's purport, I think first paragraph, last three lines again. First paragraph.
Which verse?
Purport, yes, verse is 12, Prabhuji. 12. So it was written that in the second class position, the devotees can see four principles in the devotional life.
That is different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Read that, it will become clear.
So it was namely the personality of Godhead, his devotees, the ignorant and the envious.
So what is in the context, what was spoken? Try to understand what Srila Prabhupada is speaking. Normally people, even if they read also, they're not able to make out anything. What Prabhupada is explaining here? What is the context?
It is about different classes of devotees, divisions.
Yes, different. So what Prabhupada is recommending here? That a neophyte devotee or materialist devotee, what he has to do? How he can progress?
He should come in the platform of second class, and I think
no, you have to read it again. Ramya, you want to contribute? Speak.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, third class devotee can improve himself to second class by following the instruction of a person Bhagavat.
Yeah, at least one has to come to the second class. And what are the principles of the person who is in the second class or who is a madhyama? That he knows four things. What are the four things? He knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is bhagavān. He also knows who is a devotee. Bhakta. Then he knows one who is ignorant. That means he knows one who is not properly trained or educated. So what he does? He has compassion, karuna for such people. And he also knows who are envious. So for them, what he has upeksha. He ignores them. For ignorant, he uplifts them. And for those who are envious, he ignores them. And those who are devotees, he makes friendship with them. And for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavān, he worships them. So these are the four principles. How to know who is in the second class? He will be dealing in this way. He worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He makes friends with the devotees. He has compassion for those who are ignorant. He uplifts them and engages them in the process of devotional service. And those who are envious, he ignores them. A very beautiful verse, Narad Muni says in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Maitri Karuna Upeksha. That is the second class devotee. But Uttam Bhagavata, he does not do that. He does not distinguish between who is envious or who is devotee. He considers everyone to be devotee. He sees the presence of Supreme Lord in everyone's heart. So that fourth principle is for one who is a Madhyamadhikari. But here the fourth principle is given for one who wants to achieve perfection. Tasmād ekena manasā bhagavān sātvatāṁ prati śrotavyaḥ kīrtitavyaś dhyeyaḥ pūjyaś nityadā. And what it will help to come to what stage? Saṁsiddhir hari-toṣaṇam. The purpose of all the division and classification of varṇāśrama dharma is to perform these four activities. And then he's asking in the final verse, 15th verse, that who will not pay attention? Who is that person that with sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knot of reactionary work karma by remembering the personality of Godhead? Therefore, who will not pay attention to this message? Who will not pay attention? One who is envious. Okay? Clear?
Yes, Prabhuji. So that means second class also there is little bit enviousness, Prabhuji, as the
No.
discrimination. Discrimination is there.
It is required. How the advancement will come? Krishna gives the opportunity to everyone, but it depends on the person. Who is he envious to? The Madhyamadhikari sees the enviousness in the heart of the person towards Krishna and towards his devotees. So he does apeksha or upeksha. He is not envious of the person. What is the ninth offense in chanting the holy name? At what level it is? What is the ninth offense? Now you are all... What? What is the ninth offense?
To preach the non-devotees.
What? No. To preach the non-devotees? Who was born devotee? The preaching is done to non-devotees only, na? Or preaching is done to devotees? What is the complete sentence? Every day we recite the 10 offenses. Yes, Pranab Prabhu?
To instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
Not to instruct the faithless person on the glories of the holy name. अश्रद्धालु व्यक्ति को कृष्ण नाम की महिमा का उपदेश देना. What platform is this, Mr. Manoram?
Yeah, it is elevated platform, Prabhuji. No enviousness in that case.
If we take your standard, then one should preach the glories to the envious person?
No, not preaching, Prabhuji.
Why?
Not preaching.
Why? Why this principle is given? Not
They
to
will start blaspheming. They do not have any respect. So
yes. They will not, they are envious. Why? Because they are demoniac. They have dvesha. What does demoniac mean? They have dvesha. They have envy towards Krishna. So if you try and glorify about the Supreme Lord or the glories of the holy names, what they will do, as you said, they will blaspheme further. And what will be the result? What will be the result of that blasphemy?
sinful reactions, probably more sinful reactions.
Sinful reaction. They will go into the more abominable stage of life. They'll have further fall down. So in a way, it is compassion to save him from further downfall. Otherwise, then it will be many, many more lifetimes that he will not be able to come to that level of understanding that devotional service is the highest. So is it envy? Well, so how that conception came in your heart?
It was my own interpretation, probably. So I was wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong. Actually, progress can only begin. Bhaktistu bhagavad bhakta sangha sanjayate. Bhakti can only be attained when one is in the association of a Bhagavad Bhakta. Which kind of Bhakta? Madhyama. Who follows this four principle. For ignorant, he uplifts by giving his own association and his, his teachings or instructions. But for those who are envious, he ignores them. Okay, it's a very, very deep subject. But here what is being said, very important, is śrotavyaḥ, kīrtitavyaś, dhyeyaḥ pūjyasya, nityadā. This is ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. How that suprasidati, that yatma suprasidati is śrotavyaḥ, kīrtitavyasya, dhyeyaḥ pūjyasya, nityadā. Four principles. Thank you very much. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Gradually I am receiving some of the Pradeep Prabhu. How much more time you need?
Today we will send Prabhu.
Today? Okay. माननीय माता जी, आपके लिए कितनी भेजूं बर्गर गीता? जितना आपने कहा है उतना तो भेज दो ना। 100 गीता तो करिए। डिस्पैच के लिए डिस्पैच दे दिया है।
ठीक है प्रभु जी।
ठीक है, करिए करिए, करेंगे तो होगा। और अगर सोचेंगे ना, विचार करेंगे, अपनी बुद्धि और अपने मन को बीच में ले आएंगे तो कुछ नहीं होगा, तो केवल विध्वंस होगा। इसलिए क्या बोल रहे हैं सूत गोस्वामी? श्रोतव्य कीर्तितव्यस्य ध्येय पूज्यस्य नित्यदा। इसी बहाने भगवान का शेल्टर लेंगे कि नहीं हो रहा, हम नहीं कर सकते। इट विल ब्रिंग अस टू सम ह्यूमिलिटी कि खुद से कुछ नहीं होगा। विल बेग प्रभुपाद, विल बेग कृष्णा कि प्लीज कुछ कृपा करिए कि कुछ बुक्स निकले। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द असेंबल्ड। प्लीज ये श्लोक से याद कर लीजिए। अगर आपने अभी टेस्ट पकड़ लिया, भागवतम बहुत जल्दी याद होगा, बहुत जल्दी याद होगा, भगवत गीता से भी फास्ट।